Hi, Father Pat Cosgrove here again from Chalice, speaking of our Lenten fast. Fast as you can. As I mentioned in my first video, this fast has at its heart conversion of Russia, conversion of our world, but most of all, conversion of ourselves. And conversion is a journey to holiness because holiness is the very nature of God. And to come into his presence is to share in that holiness. As sure as we become warmer by the sun's heat, we become holy by God's holiness. The word holy means, in the original Hebrew, means to be set apart for God, for the purpose of that is God's purpose. So the Sabbath day is a holy day because it's set apart for God. This is the purpose of Lent, to set a day or 40 days aside, make them different, and therefore it's the purpose of our fast. So though visibly working and living in the presence of the crowd that's around us, physically and mentally and spiritually, we're setting these days of fast apart for God, that we might come into his presence. And therefore, we might share in God's holiness. We more often than not take care of our physical well-being and neglect our spiritual self. We see this today in the journey of the Samaritan woman in the gospel of this weekend. But the gospel reading is not what it appears on the surface. She comes to the well alone, looking for physical water that's able to quench her physical thirst. But Jesus speaks to her spiritual thirst, her spiritual desires that comes out of her being alone, actually. And that's critical because he could not have that conversation if she had not been alone. Why she came alone? To be by herself, to think on her own? We don't know. We have some ideas. Maybe she was rejected. Maybe it was just a purposeful separation, or maybe it was just by accident. However it happened, it gave Jesus the opportunity to speak to her soul. It means to be set apart. And that's what we're doing with these days. Also important was that Jesus, in speaking to her, never condemned her, acknowledged her past, acknowledged her situation, but in speaking to her brought her a conversion. She saw herself differently afterwards. And then she was able to go to the whole town and share what she had received. And that's what we hope to have happen in our own fasting. Setting these days apart, making them holy, so that God can make those kinds of changes, a metanoia, change in mind, change in heart, change in the way we see things, change the way we can love others. Jesus often took his disciples aside, put them apart, to make them holy, to talk to them, so that he could change their heart and mind and way of seeing. Eventually, it took a while, but they did. They gradually became the kind of people that could convert others. Often, therefore, you can see that it was the crowd that prevented people from seeing and hearing Christ. Think of the paralytic man. The crowd, his friends couldn't bring him to Christ. The crowd was preventing the way. They had to lower him down to the roof. Think of Zacchaeus, who could not see Jesus until he climbed the tree, call out. No, Jesus could speak to him. Blind Bartimaeus, it was the crowd who told him to be quiet when he cried out, "Son of David, have pity on me." Crowd, be quiet, be quiet. The crowd gets in the way. Crowd think, the way of the world. And that comes to us all the time in the voices that tell us how we should think about everything in this world, what our opinions should be. It's what's often called just plain old peer pressure. To get away from that so that we can hear. That's what Jesus did with his 40 days in the desert. He got away from the crowd. That's the purpose of Lent. This fast sets apart these days so that we might hear the voice of Christ in his Holy Spirit, so that he may make the changes in our thinking, in our seeing, and our acting in the world. So that's our goal. Lord, bring us apart so that you may change our heart, so that we may come back into the world, not to condemn, not to reject, but to convert, to heal, simply to love better than what we were able to beforehand. That's what holiness means. Come apart, think differently, act differently by the grace of the Holy Spirit. So how's it going so far? If you've been encountering problems or difficulties, then remember, pray as you can, fast as you can. It is not your effort that will make the change any more than you give yourself a tan. It's the sun that makes the difference on our skin, and it is the Son of God that makes the difference on our soul. God bless you.